Hey guys, what's up? LJS here, and I'm finally back with another deck profile. This time I'm doing the all-new Ashlei Reverse. The Broken Heart. Oh my god, she's so broken heart. Sorry guys, I've been away for quite some time. I'm finally back because, well, I'm busy with work and all that. But I'm finally back with another deck profile, and this time it's going to be the new Knight Reverse. So, Royal Paladin's subclan, Jewel Knight, was released back in set 10, and the thing is, its release was kinda meh, and the break rate they had was arguably also quite meh. But with set 14, with the new support of Ashlei Reverse and continuing the tradition of cross break rights, this archetype is a lot better now. So yeah, so in the past, Salome only gives a crit, but this new boss gives a sure way of generating advantage by minusing your opponent by 1 and plussing you 1. So this deck basically revolves around the boss of Ashlei Reverse, supported by her original version, also a break right version of herself, Ashlei, and you have cards that support the Ashlei archetype such as Bending Jewel Knight Miranda, new free callers such as Tilda, and this new power upper Jewel Knight Alwyn. So with that out of the way, let's look at our deck profile. So first, for grade 3s, we run for Ashlei Reverse. So her skill is counter +1, lock a Jewel Knight rearguard, and then you get to retire one of your opponent's rearguards in the front row, and you can search your deck for a Jewel Knight and call it to R. So essentially her skill is a straight out +2 for you, because you -1 to your opponent and you +1 for yourself. So it's pretty good for in case your field is not complete, you know, it saves your hand. And well, she has a pretty decent skill. So next you have for Ashlei break rights. Her break right skill is kinda meh, because all she does is give your Vanguard 10k and 1 crit. That's it. All she does is give 1 crit. And by this time, you know, late game, most people have a perfect guard, so people just perfect guard, or you know, yeah, let it hit if that's 3 damage or less. So the only time this break right is useful is if your opponent is at 3 damage and he has no perfect guard, which, well, it can happen, but there are better break rights out there. But in this case, you know, with cross right, she's not too bad. You know, at least you get the cross right defense. Okay, for grade 2s, we run for Bending Jewel Knight Miranda. So her skill is, okay, she's 9k base, and the skill is when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have Vanguard with Ashlei in this card name, she gets 2k. So she's essentially an 11k attacker with Ashlei Vanguard, and if she hits a Vanguard and you have an Ashlei Vanguard, you can give 3k to another rearguard. So the 3k is actually quite useful because it helps you hit magic numbers, which I will show you later. Although the sad thing about this card is that, I mean, she's a double rare and her skill is pretty decent, you know, it's a pressure card. But the sad thing is that she's purely an Ashlei support, and with a sub clan, you will at least hope that, you know, she's a Jewel Knight support and not an Ashlei support, because she's only pretty much useful in an Ashlei deck, which is these two, and she's less useful in the Salome deck, or even, you know, the future Jewel Knight, the one from Fire's collection, I don't know her name. So she's not really that useful in decks without Ashlei's. So yeah, but if only she was a Jewel Knight, you know, if only she was a Jewel Knight support and not just an Ashlei support. Oh well. Next, I run, okay, sorry, this is my friend's deck, not my deck. So yeah, so next we run the 12k attacker for Jewel Knight. Although do take note that this the 12k attacker for Jewel Knight is quite different from most sub-clan 12k attackers, because for her to achieve 12k is that you need 3 other rearguards with Jewel Knight in the card name, so that only then she gets the 3k. So I don't know why Bushiroad decided to make the Jewel Knight 12k attacker a bit less consistent, because for other decks it's so easy, you know, just call, and if your Vanguard is that sub-clan, like, you know, Eradicators or Star Raider, they get 3k 12k attacker straight away. But she needs 3 other rearguards with Jewel Knight before she's a 12k attacker. So yeah, but you know, she's the only sort of caretaker you have, so run her. And the thing is, getting your full field is not that hard with this deck because you have a lot of free units that gives free calls. So next, I run my friend runs Linking Dronite Tilda. Okay, this is one of those interesting new supports that Bushiroad came up with, which is whenever you write a grade 3, something happens. Eradicators also have a similar card. So her skill is, when your grade 3 is... Okay, grade 3 with Dronite is placed on Vanguard circle, you can pay the cost of +1. If you do, search for your deck for grade 1 or less Royal Paladin and call it to R and shuffle your deck. So essentially she is very useful for turn 2, so you just call her at the back. Then when you write a grade 3, +1, call a free grade 1 out. And if you still leave her here, when you break right, you get another free unit for +1, which is pretty good. And the thing is, her skill requires you to commit her before writing a grade 3. And the thing is, she is a good sponge, meaning that your opponent will more likely want to get rid of her before you actually use her skill. So she's actually quite a useful way of defending against Vanguard attacks. Against attacks to your Vanguard. So yeah. So run 3 because you don't need that many of her, because you're only probably going to write grade 3s twice. So you're only going to use your skill at most twice. Okay, so next, my friend runs this for fun. Sibyl. She's an 8k base, and she's a, I think, Vivian clone, I'm not sure, but essentially her skill is when you call her, +2, and you can call a grade 1 or less grade 1 or less Jewel Knight. Yeah, to R, yes. So yeah, only one for fun. I don't know why she runs it, but it's a free call, you know. So next for grade 1s, she runs 3 Perfect Guards and 1 Quintet Wall. Quintet Wall, since Set 14 came out, Quintet Wall is a new thing, and it's a bit... No, there's mixed feelings about it. One, it's a very good, you know, guarding tool, but number 2, it takes counterblast and you can actually deck out a lot faster. And you don't really need to run it pre-Legion, but once Legion comes out, she's more... Quintet Walls are more relevant. But the thing is, so right now we just run 3 Perfect Guard and 1 Quintet Wall, because Quintet Wall can come in useful at times. But for now, Perfect Guard is still a more surefire way of guarding huge attacks that you must block. Next, we run the grade 1 10k attackers. Her condition is the same as the 12k attacker of Tracy. She's Shelly. Unlike other subclans, she has the same restriction as Tracy, where you need to have 3 rear guards with Dronite before she's a 10k attacker. Oh, and also check this out. These two are also Legion. Hipster Dronite Legion before it was cool. So yeah, for 10k attackers. And she's quite useful because, I mean, she's a useful unit to call out with Sibyl's skill or with Tilda's skill to get free calls. Or if you want to, you can also use her to call booster if you need boosters. And next, she runs, 3 Jewel Knight Prismy. Her skill is when you call her out, if you have 3 or more Jewel Knights, 3 or more Jewel Knight rear guards, drop a card and then draw a card. So essentially she's a recycler, so you can help search out cards you need. For example, let's say you have your cross right, you have your break right, you don't have her in your hand, you can use her to hopefully cycle cards out to draw into her. And finally, for grade 1s, we run 2 Jewel Knight Alwyn. So her skill is that choose a grade 3 card with Ashlei in its card name from your drop zone and put it under your deck. If you have a Royal Paladin Vanguard, choose one of your grade 3 units with Ashlei in its card name, and that unit gets 5k until end of turn. So essentially, she is a sort of free power-upper for Ashlei. So what happens if your Vanguard is Ashlei and she's a rear guard? You can shove another Ashlei in your drop zone under your deck. Then you can put 5k to Ashlei. Any unit of Ashlei, so it can be a Vanguard or rear guard or whatever. But most of the time you want to put it into a Vanguard to, you know, power up. The set, Genesis also has a clone of her, but the thing is, she suffers the same problem as Miranda, in that they're both Ashlei support, not Jewel Knight support. So it's kind of sad that they only support Ashlei and not Jewel Knight. Sorry, yeah, not Jewel Knight. Unlike Regalia, the Genesis, Orient Owl, yeah. Orient Owl supports Regalias, so you can actually use Orient Owl in any Regalia build. But the thing is, now with Ashlei restriction, she's only useful in Ashlei decks, which is quite sad. And actually the thing is, she is less reliable as the Regalia version, because you don't always get to have any Ashlei in a drop zone, because the only way you get Ashlei in drop zone is either you use her skill to discard and draw, or if you call them as rear guards and someone kills it, or you use it as the perfect guard discard card. So it's a bit hard compared to Regalia, because Regalia is quite easy to use this clone skill, because whenever you soul charge, you are bound to soul charge a Regalia grade 3 into your soul, and whenever you soul blast, you can just soul blast those Regalia out. The next turn, you use the Orient Owl, shove it in, and give power to Vanguard, and have powerful restanding Vanguard with extra 15k or something like that. So in this deck, it's useful, but not as useful as in a regular deck. So for triggers, run 4, 8 crit, 4 draws, different art, so that your opponent can't guess ratios, and 4 heals. Okay, so with the deck profile out of the way, oh sorry, I forgot to mention the starter. Yes, for starter, she runs Tiffany. So her skill is that act, put her in the soul, and choose 2 of your regards with Jewel Knight in the name and give 3k. So if you notice, this deck has 2 cards that gives regards 3k, which, as I mentioned earlier, is actually pretty good to hit new barriers. So I'll show you later how to make nice columns and make use of this extra 3k. So she is actually quite good to run to give extra power, and sometimes if you want to, you can also actually run more of her. Maybe you can take out, you know, Shelly, or take out some great, maybe Miranda, just to make room for maybe 2 more of her, because she's quite useful, you know, to give power. So you can, the thing is, you can actually use units like Tilda, or you can easily use Ashlei's skill to call her up from the deck. So essentially, it's not really wasteful, because your field for Jewel Knight is most likely to be full, and to make use of her skill properly, you would want to sort of get rid of some of your regards. So one way to get rid of them is to use her to put in the soul and give 3k, then use her skill to call another unit out. So essentially, you make use of her. Anyways, that's the deck profile. Now let me explain some nice columns you can set up, and how to have, you know, make use of the plus 3k to give pressure. So your rear guards, your grade 2 attackers are mostly 11 or 12k. So you have Miranda, 11k attacker, Tracy 12k attacker, and you actually have 1 9k attacker linking Jewel Knight. And your boosters, you have 7k boosters and this 6k booster. So the 6k booster is useful behind these 2. Okay, either Miranda or Tilda. Tracy. So this is how it should be. So you have, here you go. So attack with her for pressure. So she's 18k column, which is useful against cross rights. But if your opponent is an 11k, it doesn't matter. So pressure with this, if it hits, gives 3k here. And now this column is going to be a 21k, which is pretty good. 21k is a nice number against 11k Vanguards. Of course, if you're up against cross-right, it's not as good. And yeah. Also, so the 6k booster is usually useful behind these 2. Or you can also use it behind Ashlei, any of the Ashlei. So, let's say you have this, attack, hits, give 3k here. Now this is going to be a 22k column, which is also a good number against 11ks. And because the thing is, this column, if your opponent doesn't guard this, he'll have to guard more against this column. So this is actually a quite useful pressure card. Also with Tracy, for example, if you don't have Miranda, let's say your field is like this, and you need to call something. Okay, so you can just put her in the soul, put 3k here and here. Sorry, no, maybe not that. My bad. Okay, so let's say you feel it's like this. Put her in the soul, get 3k here, and they both break new barriers. So essentially you minus 1 card, and you actually make both columns extra powerful, and your opponent has to actually dish out 2 more extra cards to guard. So essentially it's a -1 for a +2, which is pretty good. So now both these column attack for, this is now 22, this is now 21, which hits the next barrier against 11k Vanguard. Yeah, so this deck is, the way that this deck runs is on, you know, having good field advantage. You have calls, and you also have pressure units that gives little bits of 3k here and there that makes huge difference. And let's say, and you also have Alwyn to shove any extra Ashleys from the drop zone into your deck to give 5k to your Vanguard. So in the end, all your columns will probably be attacking for 21k every turn. Well, maybe not every turn, but pretty often you'll be running for 21k. And yeah, so that's about it for this Junite deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I wasn't too boring or too weird or too messy. So thumbs up, subscribe if you like my contents, and comment below about anything, any questions or any future decks you want to see. And yeah, so this has been LJS. Thanks for watching.